Hey everyone, welcome back to Noiseberry Games. So I just finished playing the Last Hero of Nostalgaia. Yes, the game I did a video on, first impressions on just yesterday. I've completed it since that video. So I thought I would talk about my final thoughts about the game. If you watched the first impressions John's Watch video, you'll remember that I was very positive about it. I was looking forward to playing it. After finishing it, I'm very mixed on the game. I do think it started out incredibly strong. The start of the game is so much fun, but by the end of the game, I was getting very frustrated with it, and I was absolutely ready for it to end by the time I did finish my playthrough, which took me, Steam says 12.9 hours. We can say 13 hours, I'm sure. So first, I want to talk about one of the positives, definitely the game's biggest strength, which is the world layout and design, and especially the interconnectivity of it. This game is obviously inspired by Dark Souls games in general, but definitely heavily inspired by Dark Souls 1 in particular. Dark Souls 1, if you'll recall, is the most interconnected world that FromSoft has ever made. You're not allowed to teleport between bonfires until you kill Ornstein Smough and get the Lord Vessel. So you're walking around and you're finding all these little shortcuts back to different places and stuff, like going from was it like outside the depths back to Firelink Shrine, that kind of thing. And so this game took the interconnectiveness of Dark Souls 1 and honestly improved on it. The how connected this world is incredible. You can walk from start to finish. You can walk all over the map. You can reach everywhere. You don't need to teleport. And in fact, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. You can't teleport. You can, when you sit at a bonfire and you light it, you can set that bonfire as your warp destination. And then from any other bonfire you rest at, you can warp back to your set bonfire. But you can't really, apart from that, choose where to warp, which I found very cool at first. It was very exciting, walking around, going from the mines back to the village kind of thing, finding shortcuts there. But later on, the game gets decently big. Later on, it was such a slog trying to remember where everything was, because you unlock blacksmiths, and if you want to upgrade your weapons, you have to go find the blacksmiths. And I could not for the life of me remember exactly where the blacksmiths were towards the end of the game. So I would take legitimately about 15 minutes just wandering around trying to remember where a blacksmith was. And that was very, very frustrating. I appreciate what they've done with how connected the world is. I think it's awesome unlocking all those shortcuts. You'd be progressing through a level, you'd find a closed door, you'd open it, you'd walk through it, you'd be like, wow, am I really here? This was right next to it, kind of thing. Those moments were awesome. But the frustration I felt towards the end of the game and not being able to warp was, it was very, very annoying. I know the devs have said in the Steam forums that that obviously it was a conscious choice not to include warping because they wanted the world to feel so connected. They said they were thinking about adding bonfire teleporting after a certain point in the game. I think even that certain point in the game, I'm not going to say what it is because spoilers, I think even that point in the game would be too late. For like 3 hours before that point in the game, I was fed up with walking everywhere. I think by about the halfway point of the game, you need to be able to warp. Just like Dark Souls 1, there's a reason they added warping. But like I said, like absolute props for making such an incredible world that you can. It's so connected. Really, really impressive. The level design and world design is honestly incredible in this game. Another big plus for me was the sheer amount of weapons and armor you can find in this game. There's a lot. I mentioned in the video yesterday that I love Fashion Souls, Elden Bling, love getting whole armor sets and trying them on and stuff. There were so many weapons and so many armor sets and so many shields, and I loved that. I loved finding them all. I loved changing weapons a couple of times. I kind of found about a quarter of the way through the game, I found the weapon I wanted to go for, and just kind of stuck with that and just upgraded that one. But yeah, so many Soul-likes I feel fall very flat on the character customization aspect, and this one gave me, I never felt that. There was so many different armor sets and stuff, I loved it. Speaking of the armor sets and weapons, this game has a really unique mechanic tied to them called remembering, I guess. I don't remember exactly what it's called in the game. But most of the weapons and armor will have, if you look at the lore of each of them, they'll have like a little hint of where you need to go to unlock their full potential, basically. So they'll give you like a little lore description. Some of them are fairly easy to figure out. Some of them I did not figure out at all. But basically, if you go find the right place, like one of the swords you get at, I think, after the depths level, if you take that back to the village in like a tavern, you can remember it and unlock its full potential. For weapons, it just gives them a bit more attack, and it also unlocks their special attack, which you trigger with left trigger. And armor will get more defense, better stats, basically. And they also change the appearance of the armor and weapons. So like before you've remembered them, they'll be all pixely, and then once you've remembered them, they'll turn into like full detail. Really nice touch, really cool mechanic. I thought it worked great. Basically, if you're in the right spot and you open up your inventory, you'll see the weapon or armor set kind of like shaking. It'll be just like glitching around a little bit in your inventory, and then you can just hover over it and click remember, and that'll unlock it. And because this game does have online components and messages like Dark Souls, I did find a lot of times I would like walk into a room, there'd be a message on the ground that will say like, remember sword. And I'm like, oh great, I don't have to figure this one out for myself. And I just open up my inventory, see the wiggling sword, I'm like, great, got it, done. So yeah, really loved that mechanic. I thought it was awesome. Now on to some of the negatives. I don't know if it was just my build. Like the weapon I was using was sort of like a katana. It was like a long dex weapon. I didn't find too many like pure dex weapons, which was a shame. Like I didn't really feel like I had too many options for my build. I think if I could restart with the knowledge I have of the game right now, I'd probably do like a mix magic, like a battle mage build, like sorcery and dex kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know if it was the weapon I chose, but the moveset I found really, really wonky, I guess. I found it so difficult to hit enemies with a lot of attacks. It has a really cool moveset. I guess all the weapons do, but like it's got running attacks, it's got rolling attacks, it's got heavy attacks, it's got charged heavy attacks. Really cool variety. But I found like the running attack and rolling attack especially were just basically useless. I don't know. I feel like the character is kind of swinging the sword more vertically instead of horizontally. So I missed so many attacks with this weapon. And it was really strong, so like when it hit, it was good. But if I was trying to like dodge and stuff, if I rolled, I knew I shouldn't even bother hitting the attack button because it wasn't going to land at all. I found that very frustrating. The combat, the movement in the game was great. Walking, running through the world was awesome, felt good. Combat really went downhill. That it definitely wasn't the strong point. Did not feel as good as a Dark Souls game, which I mean, you know, it's hard to get that level of polish in an indie game, but yeah, the combat didn't feel great. Another negative was that every time you die to a boss, there were always really long runbacks to the boss. Really annoying runbacks. I think the final boss especially had like, it was something like, it was probably like a minute runback, but it's far too long. It really throws you off and really makes you... dying shouldn't be too painful in a Souls-like. It really should be a learning experience. And so having to respawn so far away if you die to a boss is so frustrating. So that was really annoying, especially in a post-Elden Ring world, where even FromSoft acknowledged that boss like corpse runs are really annoying, and they gave us the Stake America mechanic, where you can just respawn basically right next to the boss. I don't know why they went for this system in this game. Probably just because they were very inspired by Dark Souls 1. I feel like Dark Souls 1 had more of those kind of corpse runs. But yeah, that was really annoying. I was getting super mad in some of the later boss fights. And the final negative I'd written down was that boss fights don't seem tuned or balanced for solo play. What I mean by that is if you do certain NPC quest lines, you can, an NPC will appear outside a boss room, and you can ask them to join you in the fight. And so that the first main boss I did, I'd accidentally done the NPC's quest, and so I got to bring them into the fight, and I think I beat the boss on my 3rd or 4th try or something, and it really wasn't too bad. But then the very next boss I did, I obviously had not done the NPC's quest, and side note, by the time I got to this boss, I'd messed up the NPC's quest line, so I did not have the option of going back and getting the quest to the right place so the NPC could help me. I was just absolutely on my own. And it was so difficult by myself. It was an absolute nightmare. And in fact, every boss after that first one where I had the NPC was so hard. So ridiculously hard. And I looked online, I was like, what am I missing something with this boss? And the only solutions were like, oh yeah, you need to have done this person's quest line so they can come into the boss room with you. And that was really annoying. That all the bosses absolutely did feel like they were balanced for 2 people, you and an NPC summon. So that was really frustrating. I like playing Souls-likes blind on my first playthrough, and I don't think I successfully completed any NPC quest lines at all in this, especially judging by my achievements. I have 15 out of 40. So yeah, I missed a lot. But yeah, it was also very, very frustrating having to fight these bosses by myself when they were, I'm pretty sure, balanced for 2 people. So all in all, this is a very mixed recommendation. It's not a full thumbs up, it's not a full thumbs down, it really is a thumbs in the middle. Basically for all the reasons I've talked about, the world is so polished and awesome, it's great finding shortcuts and stuff in there. But the combat and extremely difficult boss fights definitely brought it down. And yeah, I definitely found myself not having nearly as much fun towards the end of the game. They also seem to go for the Scholar of the First Sin approach to difficulty, which was just in later areas, copy-pasting enemies everywhere. There's a lot of that. In fact, I think the last quarter of the game, I didn't even bother fighting enemies in any of the dungeons. I just ran past them because there were too many and they were too difficult. They get so scaled up towards the end of the game. So yeah, just literally last quarter of the game, didn't fight enemies. Literally just ran past everything. I would try the first time and I would die on the second enemy. I'd be like, what's the point? What's the point? So yeah, very, very mixed review on this one. Thumbs right in the middle for the Last Hero of Nostalgaia. I'd love to hear from people if they've played the game themselves. I know nobody on my Steam, in my Steam friends list, has the game yet, so I don't know if anybody watching will have played it. But yeah, I'd love to hear people's thoughts if they have played it and completed it. Thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!